We made $65,755 wholesaling this single family property in Arlington. This is our biggest deal to date, the biggest wholesale fee we have ever made, and we did it in 27 days, all from a cold call. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, like I said, this is our biggest wholesale assignment fee to date. The one before this, I think, was like 55 grand. So we topped it by a little more than $10,000, and it all came from a cold call. That's right, just picking up the phone and calling people, seeing if they are interested in selling. Now, I know right now in 2024, you probably watch a lot of videos from a lot of gurus, if you're a newbie wholesaler, that tell you to stay away from outbound marketing like cold calling. And inbound marketing is really popular right now, and I prefer inbound marketing. We actually do a lot of inbound marketing in our company and have shied away from cold calling, but it is still effective if you can be consistent with it. All right, now the list we dialed to find this lead was simply an absentee owner list. He had owned the house. It had actually been vacant for 4 years when we reached out to him. So the fact that nobody else had reached out to him to buy this property was crazy. But you get these type of unicorn deals sometimes from cold calling or from driving for dollars when you're able to create your own list and find those needles that have been lost in the haystack, and this was one of those deals. All right, so like I said, the house had been vacant for 4 years. The seller was an older gentleman, probably in his late 60s. He was married. Him and his wife were both actively working, so they did not have the time capacity to continue taking care of the property. I mean, it needed major work, foundation, plumbing, roofing, HVAC system, and it was a full cosmetic update. They no longer wanted to pay the taxes. They didn't want to keep getting the yard mowed. They were just tired of the property and wanted to get out from under it. On a scale from 1 to 10, I would give this house about a 6. It did have some major issues that was wrong with it. It was fully cosmetically outdated, but the property was in Arlington, all right, near the Cowboy Stadium. And if you know anything about Arlington, you know this is an investor's paradise, all right? Everybody loves the Arlington Grand Prairie area. It's just a really hot spot, and it's been that way since we started wholesaling real estate 4 years ago. When we reached out to the seller, he did not even have an asking price. He said that he wanted us to come by and actually physically see the house and then give him an offer so, you know, they could just decide whether they wanted to go with that offer or not. But he didn't have any price in mind. He didn't know what the house was worth. He didn't know what was going on in the market. He didn't have any realtor friends in his ear. His neighbors weren't telling him what he could get for the house. And so this was an ideal seller, all right? When they have a property that's vacant already, they own it 100%, they have no use for the property, and they don't have an idea of what they can get for it. This is the perfect type of seller that I like to talk to and negotiate with. So before going out to the property, I actually gave him an offer range. And this is something that I like to do with all of our sellers before I actually go to a property appointment. I won't give them a hard offer, but I will typically give them a range that has a $20,000 range and just see if we're even in a ballpark and see how they feel about that offer. Okay, so before I went out to the property appointment, I gave him a cash offer range between $115,000 and $135,000. And what I like to tell them is, if the house is totally distressed, you know, we're gonna have to do a full cosmetic update, then I'm probably gonna be on the lower end of that offer. Now, if the house is, you know, in sort of decent condition and doesn't need a full cosmetic update as well as a lot of major rehabs, then I may be on the higher end of that offer range, all right? But it probably won't go higher than that. And so he knew that on the low end, he get 115, on the high end, he get 135. He was perfectly okay with that range. He actually told me that he didn't think that I would be anywhere close to the $135,000 range, which was great news for me, like music to my ears, because I knew that we could comfortably offer the $135,000 based on the property's physical structure and the location of the home. So when the sellers are already negotiating against themselves, that is a great situation for you to be in as the buyer or wholesaler, okay? So I went to this property appointment with extreme confidence. So went to the property appointment, walked the house, pointed out a couple things that I noticed, asked a couple questions, and he was really upfront. So this guy was also a really honest seller, which is something you also don't see a lot. And that is another one of the reasons I say this was a unicorn deal. I mean, the guy poured his heart out about issues that were wrong with the house. He told me upfront about the foundation. He told me there were plumbing issues. He told me there were electrical issues. He also told me that about 5 years prior, there was a situation where he received money from his insurance company to pay for a new roof on the house. But since no one was living there, he just kept the insurance money. But he assured me that whatever price we offered to him, he would put an extra $10,000 on top of that to take care of the roof. I mean, it don't get no better than that, man. I didn't know if he was all the way serious with that, so I took it with a grain of salt, went ahead and laid our offer out. After walking the property, I gave him a hard offer at $118,000. Again, remember, he said he already didn't think that I would be close to the 135, so I didn't even want to get close to that. I believe at this point, he was just hoping that I could still at least do the 115. I didn't want to retract on my offer and go any lower than the 115. That would have just been greedy. And so I went just a little bit higher than the 115, landed at 118. He was happy with that. I guaranteed him that we were comfortable with that price range and we could definitely get it done if he was willing to start the process today. So we got that deal locked up at 118 and was able to find a buyer within 2 days that was willing to pay $175,000 for the property. So we had $118,000 on the purchase price, $175,000 on the assignment price. So that only leaves a $57,000 assignment fee for us, but that's not where the story ends, my friends. Since we were going to make so much money on this assignment fee, we actually did a double closing. If you don't know what a double closing is, I have a video that I made talking all about double closings, breaking that down, what it is, why it makes sense, and when you should use that strategy. So if you have questions on that, I suggest you go and watch that video. But we did a double closing, which cost us $1,245. So that was subtracted from our assignment fee. But remember, I told you that the seller was going to write us a check for $10,000 to go towards the roof. And he did exactly that. So after closing, he actually wrote us a check for $10,000. So we had the assignment fee plus the $10,000 minus the $1,245 for the double closing fee, which left us with our assignment fee of $65,755. He was a man of his word. You know, one of my mottos is these sellers ain't loyal, but this dude kind of changed the game. You know, he kind of changed my feelings towards that. I mean, he was brutally honest from the jump. He wasn't greedy. He wasn't trying to get over. He wasn't a hard ass with the negotiation. They had a property that they wanted to sell and they wanted help getting it sold. And we stepped in and did just that. The seller's biggest concern was a quick closing. They wanted to get from under the property as soon as possible, and we were able to deliver that. Like I said, we went from contract to close in 27 days, and the thing that took us the longest was the fact that the sellers had items inside the house that they had not removed that they wanted to get out, but because they lived on the other side of town and they both worked 9 to 5s, it was hard for them to get over there and remove those items. We provided some assistance on that end as well. It just took us a couple weeks to actually coordinate with their schedule, but we finally got it done. And 27 days later, we $65,000 richer. We didn't really have any issues on this deal. The only hurdles we had to jump were the double closing, which was not really a problem. It just cost us $1,200. And then, of course, we had to work out the junk removal by coordinating with the seller's schedule, but no real issues on this deal. I mean, literally a unicorn deal. And if you don't know what a unicorn deal is, let me break it down for you. For us, a unicorn deal means the property only has 1 to 2 owners that are both on the deed and both in agreement and ready to sell. It's not inherited. There are no lost heirs. There's no back taxes. There's no mortgage or any type of liens on the property. That's for one. 2, they have to have a high motivation to sell, okay? In this situation, the seller's motivation was really high. The property was vacant. They were up in age and no longer want to take care of it. They did not want to be responsible for the taxes or mowing the yard or anything like that. And there were major repairs needed on the house, which completely eliminated the option for them to turn it into a rental property or try to fix it up and sell it themselves, because they just did not have the time capacity to do that. The third key to a unicorn deal is the sellers have no other interested parties. They're not talking to any other investors. They're not working with any realtors. You know, you're the only person that they're dealing with and negotiating with. And so you kind of set the standard. That will give you an advantage every time. Fourth key is the property has to be distressed. There has to be a high level of distress on the property, which typically deters an owner from wanting to take another route outside of getting a cash offer for it. 5, if they have no asking price in mind, you have hit a gold mine, my friend. If they have no debt on the house, meaning no mortgage, no taxes owed, no liens, so whatever they get from the house is going straight into their pocket, and they don't have an asking price in mind or any expectations around the price, then you create that expectation. And that is golden, my friends. And all of that combined, plus a $60,000 plus assignment fee, makes this a unicorn deal. The last key takeaway I want y'all to get from this video is you must always take detailed notes during your phone calls with sellers, all right? Especially that initial call, because if you're on a follow-up and this gets pushed out weeks or even months, you want to be able to refer back to that original call and any information that was given to you by the sellers. Now, in this case, this was a cold call, but my lead manager initially spoke to this lead, okay? I was not the first point of contact. And so in her initial call, she took really good notes, just like we trained her on. And one of the notes that stood out the most was the fact that this seller told her about the roof and the insurance, and the fact that if and when he found a buyer, he was going to write a $10,000 check at closing. All right. So since she put that in her notes, I brought it up to him again when we went on a property appointment. And just like everything else, he was honest and upfront and said, yes, I did tell her that was the situation. I got a $10,000 check from the insurance company. And since I never fixed the roof, I want to pass that money on. And that is exactly what he did. I don't know if he would have brought that up had I would have not mentioned it again. I'm confident that he would have. But with that being in the notes, I remembered to bring that up, and it ended up giving us an extra $10,000 on this assignment fee. So it is very important to have a CRM system or somewhere where you can track your notes and conversations with every single seller, okay? Because unless you are a superhuman computer, there's no way you're going to remember all of the details of your conversations that you have, and you might miss something that could be very key and potentially provide you with an extra $10,000, just like in this scenario. That's all I got for y'all today, man. That is this week's deal breakdown. $65,755 in 27 days from a cold call. If you are wholesaling, please talk to people. You have to talk to the people in order to get deals like this. You have to talk to people. You have to be consistent. You have to have a CRM to track all of your notes and conversations. That way you can use those notes to your advantage when the time comes for negotiation, y'all. Until the next time, tap in.